Okay. We are now ready to recommence the proceedings of the Western Area Planning Committee. Everyone on Zoom, can they hear me okay?
Yes, Phil, I think I can hear you now.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, right, members. We now move on to declarations of interest. Going around the room, starting with Councillor Vickers.
None, thank you, Chairman, apart from the usual one, Town Council.
Okay. I was just going to remind you of that one anyway. Yes. Okay.
For me, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Foot.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Oh. Microphone's down.
Is that better? Oh, yes. Okay, sorry about that. No, just to say that I too am a Newbury Town Councillor. I also sit on Newbury Town Council's Planning and Highways Committee. I'm the ward councillor for this ward, and I have been lobbied by members of the public, one of whom will be speaking tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abbs.
Yes, just to say I've been lobbied on this these applications rather tonight by the objector.
Okay, and obviously from the chair, I'm the same as Councillor Vickers and Councillor Foot, a member of Newbury Town Council, and its Planning and Highways Committee. Moving around the table, Councillor Dick.
None, thank you.
Councillor Gaines.
None for me.
Councillor Wollaston.
None for me, Chairman.
Moving on then to item 4A, and we're obviously talking about the planning applications that we are looking at tonight, and that is 23/02520/non-MAT and 23/02544/FUL, Newspaper House, Newbury. For those who are new to this evening's meeting, and obviously I'm referencing the representative from Newbury Town Council because I believe the other member of the public's been here on many occasions in the past. The process will be as follows. This particular application will be considered initially with representation from the parish or the town council representative, objectors, supporters, the applicant and or agent, and the ward members. The committee will have the opportunity to ask questions of clarification of the speakers, and members will then have the opportunity to ask questions of officers. The committee will then debate the item. In this case, it's combined before determining the application, which will be in two parts. I now therefore ask the planning officer presenting this case, Cheyenne Kirby, to give her a presentation. Over to you, Cheyenne.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Tonight, these applications are for Newspaper House, Faraday Road, Newbury. The site is within Newbury settlement boundary, located along the east side of the A339 road between the Robin Hood and the Bear Lane Kings Road roundabout. It's adjacent to the Newbury Conservation Area. A public car park and the Newbury football ground is to the east of the site, with the River Kennet and Avon Canal to the south, and Victoria Park is beyond the A339 to the west, and the Faraday/London Road Industrial Estate is to north and northeast. These applications tonight have been brought to committee as the applications have been called in by the development manager. And this item is the consideration of two interrelated applications, a non-material amendment, for which is the change in proposal description, which will subsequently allow for the retrospective changes which are being applied for within the second application, that is the section 73. The first application seeks to change the description from recladding of the existing building, change of use from the class B2 industrial with B2A office to B8 storage. And the proposed new description states external changes, including the recladding of the existing building, change of use from class B2 with B2A office to B8 storage. There is no statutory definition of non-material. This is because it will be dependent on the context of the overall scheme. An amendment that is non-material in one context may be material in another. The local planning authority must be satisfied that the amendment it sought is non-material in order to grant an application. When assessing the proposed description change to include the wording of external changes, this is considered to be small-scale change and is therefore considered to be non-material under the Section 96A of the Town and Country Planning Act 1990. Moving on to the second application, which is 23025444 full. This is a Section 73 for variation of Condition 2 following grant of planning permission for the recladding of the existing building and change of use. A brief history of the site. We had a previous application which was for recladding and included the installation of drive-up storage units. This was received earlier in 2022. And we received an objection from the Environment Agency due to the drive-up units impacting on the flood zone. This application was subsequently withdrawn. Later in 2022, we received the application which was just for the recladding and the change of use of the building. This was the application that was approved. No Environment Agency objection was received. The principle of this development has been established by the approval of the later 2022 permission, which was for the recladding and the change of use. This application that we're considering tonight seeks to regularise some of the changes that have been carried out retrospectively and also approve works that are also proposed. These include amended layout to parking and servicing yard, removal of existing smoking shelter and cycle store, increase in height of building by 0.4 maximum and change in location of blue cladding panel, relocation and or increase in height of external escape stairs, amendments to size and location of roller shutter doors, exit doors and windows within the ground floor elevation, creation of 2 lift overruns at roof level, and changes to glazing pattern on double height entry projection. On the screen is the existing and the proposed site plan. The blue is gravel and the green on the right hand is soft landscaping, just because I don't think you'll be able to see that because it's quite tiny writing. On the screen now, at the top is the existing elevations. In the middle is what was approved under the 2022 scheme, and the bottom elevation is proposed. So this shows the moving of the blue line on the cladding, the increase in the roof height, the changes to the roller shutter doors, and the entrance glazing, and also the changes to the escape staircase, and the roof changes on this is for the east elevation, and then we've got the north elevation, which again has the existing, the 2022 approved scheme and the currently proposed scheme. Again, this shows the cladding, the changes in the roller shutter doors, the lift overruns that you can see on the roof, and the changes to the front glazing and the changes to the roof. This is the west elevation. So this is the side that will face the A339. And again, the top is the existing, middle is the 2022 approved application, and the bottom is the proposed application, which again shows the change in the blue band, the changes to the external staircase, the removal of the cycle store and the smoking shelter, and the changes to the roof. And same again on the south elevations, we've got the existing elevations, the 2022 approved elevations, and at the bottom is the proposed elevations, which show the insertion of 6 roller shutter doors, changing of the blue band, the amendments to the roof, including the lift overruns, and changes to the front glazed section. The overall form remains similar to the approved scheme, with the proposed changes not considered to have a significant impact on the character and appearance of the area, including the adjacent conservation area. The conservation officer was consulted and stated that the amended drawing showed the blue band around the building moved down and square blue panels on the corner removed, which it was noted has helped reducing the visual impact on the recladding and signage. However, the implemented scheme has a higher blue band than the approved, although not as high as initially proposed, and the square blue signage panels, which were approved under an advert application, resulting in a slightly increased visual impact than the approved. The other proposed changes are visually minor in nature and are not considered to impact on the setting of the adjacent conservation area. In this case, it is considered to be disproportionate to request that the building is to be reclad to lower the blue band in order to match the approved, and therefore the conservation officer has no objections. Initially, the Canal and River Trust also raised an objection to the retrospective changes due to the visual impact as well as the increased noise towards the canal corridor. Amended plans were submitted which proposed further soft landscaping to the southern and eastern boundary with the inclusion of hedgerow to the southern boundary. This was then supported by the Canal and River Trust to aid reduction of visual impact and noise mitigation. However, insufficient details were submitted. Therefore, we have recommended a soft landscaping condition which would allow further details such as plant size, species, as well as maintenance and replanting, should any plants die within the next 5 years. This has been recommended as a condition at the end of the agenda. The application site is also located within flood zones 2 and 3. Therefore, a flood risk assessment is required as part of policy CS16 and the MPPF. Policy CS16 requires a flood risk assessment to be submitted. This was submitted and deemed acceptable by the drainage engineer. They then requested a condition to be added to require the provision of a leaflet which details flood warning information and evacuation plan, which the details of the procedure to be followed, and this is to be placed in a location visible to all when visiting the site. This has also been recommended as a condition. The previously approved scheme has commenced on site and a sequential test is not required for change of use applications. The Environment Agency was also consulted on the current application, however, they did not wish to provide a comment or raise any objections. Overall, the application has been carefully assessed to ensure that the proposal is appropriate in scale and design, whilst taking into consideration the impact on the character and appearance of the area, including the adjacent conservation area. The retrospective changes are not considered to cause any significant harm to the character and appearance of the area and adjacent conservation area. Furthermore, no objections have been raised by the lead local flood authority or the Environment Agency. On the screen now is the photos from the 2022 site visit, which included the original drive-up storage units within the scheme. Because of the objection from the EA, these were all subsequently removed and the application was withdrawn. This is what is currently on site. However, the proposed site plan that has been submitted does show slightly different to what is on site. So on site is more hard landscaping. However, the proposed site plan that I can go back to includes further permeable surface and soft landscaping. So this would be the front elevation. And again, what is currently on site. This is the current changed front elevation, including the glazing. The external changes to the side, including the blue band, moved. This is a wider view. This is taken from the staircase that leads up onto the A339. And this is the view from the path that runs alongside the A339, where you can see the changes. The changes include, obviously, this changes the external staircase because there's an additional floor, so they had to raise the staircase. This is the view from the path on the A339. And this is from the side, from the river side from the A339. And this is the side that faces the river that included the 6 roller shutter doors. This is currently what is on site. However, on the proposed site plan, some of this hard standing is to be removed and further permeable surface is to be added. This is again what's currently on site of the main car park area. And this is the main entranceway. That's everything. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Paul, have you got anything to add to Cheyenne's presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. Can do. There is a short highways section in your main reports, page 31. We as highway officers are content with the level of parking that continues to be provided. Cycle storage, motorcycle storage and electric vehicle charging points, and we're satisfied from the swept path analysis that's been submitted that all larger vehicles that are required to visit the site can do so and turn within the site before leaving it. There is a slight increase in this self-storage area, we understand, which does result in a very small increase in traffic generation, which we have no objection to. Overall, considering the numbers involved there. So overall, your highway officers have no concerns regarding what are relatively small changes to the overall design and layout of the site. So therefore, we raise no objection. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I now call upon the Town Council representative, and if you could come forward to the lectern. On the information, David, you're actually listed to be confirmed. So
Okay.
If you'd like to introduce yourself, now, like all other speakers, you'll get 5 minutes. And if you'd like, I'll give you the nod after 4 minutes, if that's okay for you.
It won't take very long because, it'll soon be obvious. Well, thank you for inviting me. So my name's David Harmon. So I'm with Newbury Town Council on planning and highways. So a few points. So we considered the 2 applications. We considered them back in November 23. So I think things have changed a bit since then. Certainly on 02520, the non-mat, our objections centered around, we were considering that it was not non-material. There had been quite a lot of changes to it, and some of the hard standing areas. And so our consideration was that it should be considered for a full planning application. And a second objection on that was that it was in flood risk zone 3. And at that time, we hadn't seen any flood risk assessments. And our recommendation was the proposed development required a full flood risk assessment and measures to deal with those risks. That was our objection for that one. And for 02544 full, again, it was the same line of objection, was that we considered that it, because it was in flood zone risk 3, it should have a full application with flood risk assessments and flood risk mitigation measures if needed. So as I understand it, I think the proponent has gone away and done some flood risk assessments since then.
Okay, so at this particular point, if that's the end of your presentation, you've left obviously a question for I'm sure that will be answered in the debate anyway. But at this particular point, members now will have the opportunity to ask you questions. So if you can just stand at the lectern, there might well be some questions. So members, questions for Newbury Town representative. Yes, Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, Newbury Town Council has been looking at this application including the previous applications all the way back to 22-00161/full, where the EA Environmental Agency had a standing objection, which has never been answered. You talked about a flood risk assessment, and they were waiting for a flood risk assessment again. Have you taken into account what the EA originally said in your deliberations? Because you sound like you're satisfied the fact that this is a flood risk assessment we produced, but that doesn't actually get over the objection of the EA.
Well, it's not for us really to determine what the EA says. If the EA are objecting, then I guess that's for...
It wouldn't be part of your deliberation. Okay, no problem. Thanks.
That's a separate statutory consultee, isn't it? So they'll make their own judgments.
Okay, I don't think there's any other questions, so you can return back to your seat and listen to the rest of discussions. Okay, thank you. I now call upon the objector, Alan Pearce. If you come forward, Alan, one of your many occasions when you attend the committee, and again, you've got 5 minutes, and we will inform you after 4 minutes, Alan.
Not that many, I'm afraid, but yes, thank you. Things have changed since the original drawings were submitted, and I made the objection, but I thought it was quite important to make committee members aware where we are with this and what this application is. So the main issue I've got is to do with the new car park on the south side, which is not part of this proposal and not part of the plan permission. It's not proposed. So if I can just read you what the enforcement officer said when I questioned whether it was permitted development. She said, "This means that I do not deem the work to be illegal or part of unauthorised development." Well, permitted development has safeguardings and conditions. And one of the conditions is that any additional urban runoff has to be maintained on site within the curtilage of the property. And that's the safeguarding for downstream, that no additional urban runoff is sent downstream. Well, this clearly didn't happen because it went into Thames Water Sewer, the additional. So at that point, it wasn't permitted development. And at the moment, there's an ongoing investigation on to whether it was or wasn't. That questions to the executive regarding this have been put on hold until this plan permission has been resolved. So can I ask members to question your case officer as to whether this new car park on the south side to allow access to these new doors is permitted development or part of this application? Because my issue here, and I'd like to make members aware, there are millions of pounds worth of missing infrastructure, drainage infrastructure, stopping any development on the London Road Industrial Estate. Now, I can't object to this planning permission because it's very clear you've taken out a portion of car parking down the east side and made it non-pervious. But again, this application isn't to do with that. So that's taken out because development, whether it's permitted development or development through an application, is on hold. So I'm quite happy with this development now because although you've gained a car park there, you've lost a car park. Now on B8, a landowner can make maximum use of his land, and this landowner would want that car parking. But because of lack of infrastructure, he can't. So you've had to put gravel down. So I'm trying to impress on members how millions of pounds worth of infrastructure is affecting the redevelopment of not only of the London Road, Bond Riverside, the council's own land. And when a plan application goes in for any development, it will get stalled. And that's what's happened here. So if you could quiz your officers of no development, I'm happy with this because in fact, no development has taken place. You've taken one car park and moved it over. And we would struggle. I couldn't JR that because I wouldn't have enough grounds. And this is permitted development that now confines because there is no additional runoff. So the flood risk assessment is immaterial because it's not a planning application for a new car park. It's permitted development. So I think that's all. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, questions, I would imagine. Yes, Councillor Vickers.
Alan, like you, I initially was unhappy that there was hard standing down the south side. And basically you were turning green permeable surface into an impermeable surface. I don't think at that stage when I was feeling unhappy about it, I'd seen the detailed layout, including the gravelled area. So what you're saying is you're now happy because there is no additional impermeable area to put additional loading on the drainage system. Is that why?
No additional loading has been put on because in effect on this site, no development has taken place because it's been moved from one place. The permeable surface has moved from there over to the other side.
But we've lost the green infrastructure. You're not worried about that.
But you have to remember, or B8 use, they're quite entitled under permitted development to change from grass to tarmac, providing they meet the conditions. And of course, now on permitted development, this plan application, I hate to say it, is masquerading as thing, is now showing that if we went to court on this, we'd have no, or very unlikely, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it would be less likely to be successful. So this is really covering up the lack of critical drainage infrastructure that's stopping the development of the London Road Industrial.
Just one final question. You started by talking about the enforcement case. Well, as you probably know, and perhaps you can answer this with a yes or no, the first thing you do in enforcement is ask for a retrospective to make what was potentially a breach of planning.
But this is not, you've heard the description now of this application, and nowhere did it say new car park. I think the design access says no external works.
No, but because as you say, this is permitted development, a new car park, but there is now no outstanding enforcement to be dealt with. Surely you're happy that that file can also be closed. So we needn't talk about enforcement anymore.
Yes, because in effect, yes, it is. I agree with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other members? No? Okay, Helen, I think you exhausted the questions. You can return to your seat. Okay, thank you. Right, we've got no supporters, but we've now got John Dingle, the applicant or agent, on Zoom. Can you hear me, John?
Apologies, Chairman. He's just joining from attendee to panelist.
Okay, is he on? Hello, can you hear me, John?
Yes, loud and clear, Chairman. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me.
The procedure is you've now got 5 minutes, and after 4 minutes, we will let you know you've got the further minute if you so wish to take it up. Okay, so when you're ready, commence, please.
Yeah, no, thank you very much indeed. And I think probably the most useful thing I can do for you and the committee is to respond to some of the points that have been mentioned by the town council and Mr. Pearce just now. There were, as you've heard, some objections and concerns expressed with the applications back in the back end of 2023, November, December time. Since the applicant has gone through those and listened to the feedback provided by officers, and hence why the flood risk assessment has been submitted and pleased to say accepted by the council's drainage officer. And we've also revisited the area around the building and how that is treated. I'm pleased to confirm that the minor material amendment application does include all of the sites and all of the surface area around the building, as well as the changes which the officers have run through in their presentation to the building. But in terms of the area around the building, just to give some areas to the permeable surfaces, which are obviously the key ones here. Before Cinch took over the site, there was a permeable area, total permeable area on site of 928 square meters. The approved scheme granted to Cinch would actually have resulted in a small loss of permeable area of around 110 square meters. Should you approve the minor material amendment application this evening with the additional permeable areas proposed, there would be an increase of around 80 square meters compared to the original position, or 190 square meter increase in permeable areas compared to the approved scheme. So the effect of an approval would be to significantly increase the amount of permeable surface on site. And we hope, as a result, that the scheme that is delivered and is clearly required to be there via approved drawings and via the conditions that you've heard about, will actually make a greater contribution to the drainage in the area than either the original situation before Cinch arrived or the approved situation that should currently stand at the moment. I think that's all I have to say, but obviously very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Looking around the table, any questions to Mr. Dingle? Okay, yes, Councillor Foot.
Thanks very much, Chair. Mr. Dingle, could we talk about the lighting, the external lighting on the building? Because I notice in the papers that is mentioned. And as we know, this site is slap bang next door to the conservation area of Newbury. And I drive up the A339 fairly regularly, often quite late at night when I'm going home. And what I've noticed is those lights, the security lights around that building as they are at the moment, are pointing towards that carriageway, and particularly in the winter months when the leaves are not on the trees, it is really quite a distraction for drivers. And I would imagine and I would expect that they should be pointing downwards more instead of upwards. So it's a minor comment, but you know, the external lighting is an important factor. It is mentioned in the papers, and I would like particular attention paid to that, please, because environmentally and from a safety point of view, I think there is an important point there. Thank you.
Shall I come back on that point?
If that's okay, Chair, yes, please.
Okay, go on. Are you going to answer that, Mr. Dingle? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I can certainly comment on it. I don't, I'm afraid, know the details of the lights as they've been installed, but I have no reason to doubt Councillor Foot's description at all. They are mentioned in the officer's report, as you've mentioned. With the planning permission, there was external lighting details were submitted and approved by the council, so it's very clear what should be there, and I am very happy to flag that up to my client Cinch first thing tomorrow morning and make sure that what should be there is there. Certainly, they in all my experience of dealing with Cinch or other self-storage schemes, they do not want to illuminate the wider area, and they are only interested in downlights of their building, usually for safety reasons. But so I will certainly raise it, and it's very clear, as I say, what should be on the building and what is present, so I can have that checked straight away.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have a further point, Councillor Foot?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. That's appreciated. The other point I had was the blue band and the advertising hoardings or the advertising signs as they are now. I seem to recall that in the drawings that we saw during the officer's presentation, the middle ones, where the blue band was literally just above the sort of cladding, were again, a lot less obtrusive than the existing ones. And I appreciate that they're in place now. And I think there was again a comment in the papers that it's not going to be easy to replace those. But bearing in mind that sensitive location of the site, as one drives into Newbury, and the fact that it is right by the canal corridor, it's adjacent to that conservation area. They are not an enhancement to the conservation area, and indeed I feel they're a major detraction. So that's a disappointment to me. I don't know if there's anything that can be done to mitigate that going forward, please. Perhaps you could elaborate if the chair's happy for you to do that. Thanks.
Would you able to respond to Councillor Foot?
Yeah, certainly, Chairman. Thank you. Yes, the blue band, as originally approved, should sit, as you say, Councillor Foot, just above the dark base of the building, the darker base of the building. The blue band, as installed, is one cladding panel, so about 900 millimetres higher than where it should have been approved. I have to say, well, if it's the difference between securing approval for the entire permission or not, amended permission, then clearly that's a serious matter. I think at the moment my client is inclined to agree with the Conservation Officer's assessment that the slightly higher blue panel is not detrimental to the conservation area. The signage, as installed, is as per the advertisement consent that the council has granted. So there's no question that the signage should or shouldn't be there. And I hope committee might agree with my assessment that, taken as a whole, the building as installed is visually more attractive than the original newspaper house, and is therefore making a positive contribution to the conservation area next door.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, Councillor Hooker.
Good evening, Mr. Dingle. Thank you for your presentation. Mr. Dingle, I'm always intrigued when, in this situation, your client's got permission to put the signage up and the blue sign where it is. Can you just explain to me the thought process of your client when he says, well, I won't put it there, I'll put it here. And now we're in a situation where, it could be a discussion point. And I agree with Councillor Foot here. I find aesthetically the first plan more acceptable and not such an impact on the visual aspect. Can you just explain to me the thought process of why they did it this way and not approved?
Yes, so I'll respond to that point, Councillor.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, so just to confirm, the signage is approved and has been installed as per the approval. So anything with cinch self-storage on it on any elevation is as per the advertisement consent granted by the council. The area of blue, the blue bands, the blue strip of cladding is, as we said before, one level higher, one cladding panel higher than the approved scheme, and that I think was installed by the contractor as an error. There was the signage that, as I say, is approved, is the key thing for letting Newbury and the wider world know that this is a cinch self-storage facility. And as I say, the signage is consistent with the permission.
Thank you. So the liability sits with the contractor then, not with Cinch.
Well, I'm not a contract lawyer, but I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? No. Okay. We then move on to the ward member. Councillor Foote, are you speaking on behalf of your colleague?
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to speak as ward councillor, but I'd be very happy to take any questions members might have if you're minded to do that. But no, we weren't going to speak.
Okay. If you are prepared to answer, obviously I'd ask you to stand at the appropriate place, ready in case any member wishes to ask questions.
Chairman, point of order. We're not actually allowed to ask any questions except for an information that's been presented by the speakers. So if he doesn't say anything, we can't ask any questions.
Okay, the reason I asked him to stand there because I was expecting a presentation initially. He rescinded, but he did offer to speak in relationship to if you felt it was appropriate, you should ask him a question. Now, if you're saying you don't think it's appropriate, okay, fair enough.
No, Chairman, I
Please
wasn't
sit
saying
down.
that. I was checking with legal because if they don't speak, we are not supposed to ask questions on it. Alice.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay. I think it's appropriate at a later stage, you might wish to make a couple of observations in the debate anyway. So, okay, thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Moving on now, members, it's questions to officers and obviously I think it's appropriate for you to specifically ask which officer you'd like to speak to. And I'm obviously looking at Paul Bacchus because I'm sure that there could well be some questions in your direction. So when any member says Paul, make sure you've got the right Paul, please. Councillor Abbs, you were first, and then Councillor Vickers, and then Councillor Williston.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Really to Mr. Allen's comment himself, I am somewhat unclear, and I guess this would be a first question to Cheyenne, and she must wish to pass this on. But the Cheyenne said that there had been no response from the EA. And that's certainly, there is 3 responses from the EA saying they don't want to comment, but they're saying they don't want to comment because their original objection, which has never been resolved, remains unresolved. In other words, something was approved without, over their objection. What is unclear to me is of the relevant applications that we're meant to be looking at this evening, which of the ones actually ignored the EA's recommendation or objection rather. So that would be my first question. Which is the EA referring to? Which application overrode what they were objecting to?
Okay, I think Cheyenne, you can answer that.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So the very, very first application, which was withdrawn, which included this the drive-up units that look like garages.
Yeah.
That is what the EA objected to the first 2022 application, because they can't object to the change of use because they don't need to be consulted on the change of use of the building itself. So they objected originally to the self-storage units that were in the car park, but that application was then withdrawn and a new application was submitted later in 2022. So the EA didn't comment on that or didn't have any objections on that because they don't need to be consulted for a change of use application because a sequential test or an exception test is not required for change of use applications, and especially when this is not increasing the vulnerability. So their objection does not stand currently because the approved application didn't include the drive-up units.
So by changing the way the application was done, the EA didn't become a responsible body to respond.
Yeah, correct.
Interesting. Okay. So we've had some numbers. Sorry, it's still on the similar subject. It's to do with the runoff. Is that yourself, Sharon, or?
It might be Paul.
Paul.
It might be. Oh, sorry, Paul. Might be Paul Backus for that.
Mr. Paul
If it's
Backus, I'll send this one.
Specific.
We just heard the applicant's agent talk about the square foot gain that we will get. And he's quite oddly said that in one hand, the loss of 110 was insignificant, but the gain of 110 back was really important. So I'm quite not sure what to believe there, but we'd see gravel mentioned, but is this not a hard standing area at the moment, or is it grass at the moment, and is it dug out, and is it really being turned into a permeable surface? Is the gravel really permeable, or is it over a hard surface?
According to the proposed site plans, the gravel is going to be permeable, which means it'll likely be underlain just by natural soils. So yes,
so it'll be dug out, so it actually is permeable.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's what I need to know. Oh, sorry, one last thing, if I may, Chairman, I do apologise. This whole business of permitted development, when you start to muck about with your hard standing, I only have a small amount of experience of this on basically roads or kind of bridleways or which are suddenly tarmacked over, which is causes an issue of runoff elsewhere, and you end up on horse. It's not normally something that you don't have to go for planning permission for. What are we relying on here in terms of the actual legislation that says this particular part of what they're doing is actually permitted? But I know the change of use is permitted. That's clear in the legislation, but the actual change of such hard standing from one to the other, which bit of legislation can we rely on if we pass judgment on it? Sorry.
Deborah, are you able to answer that?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out within the application and within what the proposal, we've included the amended layout, the applicants have included the amended parking layout and the service yard. So the issue of whether or not it's permitted development is it not relevant necessarily because it's been included in this application. So we are considering it as part of this application. An FRA has been submitted as part of this application and assessed by our drainage officer. So
our officer, so is legal and officers absolutely content that this is truly permitted development, what is going on here?
So I think planning enforcement did investigate the site, and that was the conclusion the planning enforcement officer came to, that it was permitted development, what had occurred on site. However, the applicants have erred on the side of caution and included it within this application and has submitted the necessary FRA during the course of the application, so it can be properly assessed.
Okay, thank you.
Wait a minute, Councillor. I've got two other. I just put my hand up because I got two others, Councillor Holger. Councillor Vickers first, Councillor Wollaston, and then I've also got Councillor Anthony Amaraj as well.
You'd be happy to hear, Chairman, that my question was so similar to Councillor Abb's, or one of his questions, that I don't need to ask anything.
Did you say one of your questions?
One of his questions was very similar to what I was going to ask, therefore I don't need to ask.
So you haven't got a second question?
No, I haven't got any question.
Okay, right, Councillor Wollaston.
Why would you give me some clarification? Because I might be being very silly here, but from what I can see from the elevations, there are 6 loading bays on the south elevation. And now that south elevation doesn't appear to have any access to it. It's got, it's put down as new asphalt hard standing, but no, doesn't like you got the turning ins or whatever.
Yes, so it's hard standing, but it's for access for cars because it's not tall enough. The loading doors are not tall enough for lorries. It's more loading for small
individuals.
small cars or small vans.
That
It's
makes
not
sense.
great big lorries. It's more just if someone's got large items to try and get them through the door.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Right, before I take you, Councillor Amathraj did have his hand up. Okay, can you hear me, Councillor?
Yes, Chairman, thank you.
You
Can hear you.
proceed with your question.
First of all, apologies for joining online. Sorry if I'm looking weary. It's midnight here, so just keeping my eyes open. So just a quick question. I think one of my question on the permitted development, I think has been answered. A question by Councillor Abs. I wanted to ask a question on the operational hours and operational point of view. Is it this self-storage is going to be operational beyond the normal working hours? And if they are, is it to be considered for us as a committee to review whether this is permitted development in that sense? That's my question.
Did you hear the question? Okay, Cheyenne? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So there's no proposed changes to the operational hours to what was already previously been allowed. So there's no change to that. But if members feel that the current operational hours are an issue, we can maybe have a discussion about that under condition. But there's no proposed changes to the hours as already approved.
Okay, thank you.
Hear that answer, okay?
Yes, Chairman. Yeah.
Right, Councillor Hooker.
Thank you, Chairman. We've now determined that the external works is are permitted development. I'm not quite sure here. The amount of tarmac that's now been laid, can you confirm that this is permeable, or the fact that it's permitted development, it doesn't have to be permeable?
No, so we're not considered, so the enforcement officers might have considered it as permitted development. That's not something that I've considered. I've considered the application as a whole as it's come in. Therefore, I've not considered permitted development at all. I've just considered it as a whole application. The permeable surface will be the gravel and the soft landscaping. Tarmac as a whole is not necessarily permeable.
Yeah, that was my question. Such a large area, why aren't we asking for that to be permeable with the runoff that I think was asked earlier as well, the concerns?
Do you want to take this?
Yeah, so the groundwater levels in this area are quite high, which means that using permeable paving and having an infiltration solution isn't viable. If you were to use a permeable surface and then put a filter drain solution underneath, you'd be incurring quite extensive costs and it would provide minimal benefit. So it would be unreasonable to request that.
Thank you.
So Gaines.
We're talking about being more sustainable, and yet we're removing the cycle store. Is there any reason we're doing that? I mean, obviously people must work there, they must get the opportunity to actually cycle to work.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Whilst they're removing the covered cycle store, there is provision of cycle spaces. This is remaining. It's to the front as cycle stands instead.
Thank you.
Councillor Abs, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairman. Yeah, it's actually Anthony brought an issue up, the working hours. I was just struggling to quickly find what the working hours are in the flooding.
I've got the working hours here. So
now, is that as it was before it was the office hours, or is this now B8 hours because they're different uses, although you can change the use?
So they put the hours on the original approved condition, on the original approved application to the top. So it's
which are
8 till 6, Monday to Friday, and 9 till 4 on Saturdays and 10 till 2 on Sundays and bank holidays.
Thank you very
That's
much.
on the application form for the original.
That's great.
Okay, have we exhausted all the questions, members? Okay, thank you very much. Right, we are now going to move into discussion on the 23/02520 stroke non-mat. Who's going to open the debate? Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was uneasy about this from the start. I very much agreed with Mr. Pearce actually on this, and he knows that. So he didn't lobby me much after that. I'm now much happier, especially if the figures are right. We have now more permeable area than we had before, and certainly a lot more than what was on the original scheme. I'm not entirely happy that it's hard, if not it's not green. I do think that's this whole industrial estate could do with more greening. I mean, I'm quite pleased with what the council's doing separately on taking some parking places out and putting in a little bit of greenery there. And I'm therefore quite happy with what we've seen now. I don't feel very strongly at all about the issue of the cladding. It's not struck me anyway, and I haven't actually been looking at that. I've only been looking at the change in the surface area. Really there's, although I'm not happy with what is and what isn't permitted development, that is the law and we can't argue with that. So that's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you. Right, Councillor Dick.
Thank you, Chairman. Short and sweet. I'm a little confused here because we had objections which aren't objections. Really, that's kind of what people said. There are things that perhaps we'd like to change, but they are already approved in the last application. So why are we wasting time on that? A right aside would be, I'm quite amused by the fact that the idea that a leaflet would save us all from drowning. But that aside, I'm content with this application.
No, I'm but quite happy to do a proposal at the end of a little chat, I guess. Really, the issue here is of slight concern is, and I think we've all focused on it, which is where the runoff and the comment from the officer just now saying, well, we aren't going for permeable tarmac because the water level's quite close to the surface already is even more worrying, because we're also patting ourselves on the back for having more permeable area to run off. I think it raises the much bigger issue of that we all know that exists in that area about what on earth, what's going to go on. However, having said all that, I'm afraid I agree with Mr. Dick in that there's nothing here that we could object to and say no. The applicant has done some of the work necessary. It would have been much nicer for them to do it the first place and not go retrospective. But I think that's a standard moan from the committee every time we have a retrospective come forward. So I'm happy to propose that we approve both of these applications this evening.
Okay, I'm going to ask for conditions. Is that seconded? Okay. And conditions then? Anything extra that you think should be included?
Yes, don't increase the height by 0.4 metres.
Okay.
No, I'm joking, sorry.
And that's on conditions, Councillor Foot.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I see no reason why we can't request that blue band goes back to where it should have been in the original application, because we've heard from Mr. Dingle tonight that it was put in the wrong place. So my personal view is it's a small thing to ask, but it will make an improvement, I think, to the visual aspect of the storage, which, to be honest, is not the most attractive building in Newbury, that's for sure.
Can I just ask some advice from the officer, Deborah?
Thank you, Chair. The advertisement consent application, which has been granted, is as you see it now, with the blue band at that height. I'm just looking at the approved plans for the advertisement consent application now. So it is similar, but I think we have to bear in mind as well that what's before us, we have the advertisement consent approval, but we also have the scheme in front of us to make that assessment on, but we have to just make a decision based on, members have to make a decision based on the scheme before them this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, right, councillor Cook.
I would concur actually with councillor Foot. My only contribution to this was that blue band, and as I say, the fact you moved it up is only 900 mil, whatever it was, but I think it did have an effect with the visual impact. And I'm surprised the fact that the contractor put it in incorrectly. And Cinch, I would have thought, had a corporate issue with regards to how it advertises itself and presents itself corporately across the country, presumably with the same logo. And the contract, oh, sorry, I've put it in the wrong place. And the client said, well, don't worry, leave it as it is. And now we find ourselves in a situation where I think aesthetically, it would look better if that band was lower, and the building wouldn't have been quite so dominant. But that's just a personal point.
As it would come back to me, Chairman, to say yes or no to the amendment, can I have a check with the officer that if for us to looking at the application before us, for us to put a condition in, would it be reasonable to ask them to move it down? Because the fact that they've done it is irrelevant, right? We're looking at the application and it's there in this application as is. So your advice, please, Deborah.
Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. It wouldn't be reasonable in this instance because we already have approved the advertisement consent application.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yes. So we can't really do it anyway, even if we wanted to. So
right, members, we've had a proposal. Oh, sorry. Well, that's what I was trying to ask before about conditions as well. But anyway, carry on. If you feel you need to get further clarification. Yeah,
no, thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify one of the conditions in the agenda pack, condition 3 for the soft landscaping scheme. It's within 3 months of the date of this decision, a detailed soft landscaping scheme should be submitted to and approved in writing by the LPA, and the scheme should include details, plants, and it should be completed in accordance with the landscaping scheme within the first planting season to make sure that those changes happen. It's just to recommend a minor change to that condition. So where it says a decision, a detailed soft landscaping scheme, we also add there to include permeable gravelled areas to ensure that they're put into place as well within that timescale.
Happy with that, Chairman.
Right. Just ask the seconder.
Yeah, I just wonder whether you want perhaps a 5-year course to maintain it.
Sorry, Councillor Williston, I didn't quite catch that.
I wonder whether we want a 5 years. I'm not sure it's in there or not, but is there a requirement for 5 years maintenance?
Yes, there is, Councillor Williston. There's a requirement that they should be that maintained for a period of 5 years and replaced if damaged was ceased.
I'd like to second, Chairman, subject to the conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further clarification, members? Can I put that to the vote, please? All those in favour, please show. Okay, I think that's unanimous. Okay. If we can then move. Yeah, well, yeah, if you, are you ready? Are you ready?
Sorry.
Oh, did it clip off? Oh, okay. Perhaps I didn't. Perhaps my finger's not stiff enough.
Chairman, you're live.
I'm live now. I'm live now. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Can we move on to the second part then of the application, which 23/025444/FUL? Who would like to make any observations on that part of the application?
Are you willing to accept just going straight to the vote?
Okay.
Because I thought we debated.
Okay, well, I gave you the opportunity if you wish to make any observations.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
So you want to go straight to the vote, so are you going to propose?
I'm happy to propose again.
Okay,
yeah.
and Councillor Williston second. Okay, again, anything that needs to be added? into the proposal?
No, the application for the non-material amendment, that was just to change the description of the application, and then the full application was the one with the conditions attached to it. So
Okay. Goes straight to the vote, as councillor Abbs has said, and without a proposal, seconder, all those in favour? Okay, again, it looks if it's a full planning permission been granted. Okay, thank you very much for your attendance. I did expect about just under 2 hours tonight, and it's actually just under an hour and a half if we take off the 10 minutes recess. Okay, thank you very much.